I'm here to tell all of you that you all have opportunities that are hiding in plain sight. Some of those opportunities can be the most significant opportunities of your lives. I say that, and that's coming from someone who grew up, tell you about myself. I grew up in the suburbs of Philadelphia. I was born in Cheltenham, not too far from here. And my family was typical. My father owned an auto shop. My mother was a curator at a local art gallery. And we were fortunate enough that I was extremely active when I was young. I played hockey. I was an avid snowboarder. I was a drummer. Played tennis in the summers. Very active kid. And most of my social connections were made through those activities. My teammates, my friends on the ski and snowboard club, my bandmates. And so that's where all of my social interactions pretty much took place. So all in all, I was a normal kid. But one thing that stands out, and we all have things that stand out compared to everybody else in our world, the thing that stood out for me is that I was born with scoliosis. So most people, most people probably know, but for those of you who don't, scoliosis is a condition where your spine has a curvature that measures more than 10 degrees. About 3% of the population are diagnosed with it when they're young. A lot of kids go through the testing when they're in early grade school. I was actually diagnosed when I was 3 for 2 reasons. One, because my condition was so prominent, and 2, because we went through extensive testing when I was young because my mother had scoliosis. My condition, to expand on that, most people who have the condition don't need treatment. About 3% of the population, no need for treatment. They can just live their lives normally even though they're diagnosed. My condition was a little bit more severe. Scoliosis is a condition where your spine curves. It can go in either an S pattern or a C pattern. Even humpbacks are a condition of late onset scoliosis. My condition had a bit of a twist, no pun intended, where I had a S-shaped curve and then a twist at my rib cage. So when I was about 7, after years of treatment, the doctor basically said, at this point, we can determine that if you don't have a significant treatment for this, I'm going to grow up to be shaped like this and have severe breathing problems by the time I'm in my early 20s. So obviously, we needed to address that as a family. Fortunately, we had coverage that allowed it, and I was prescribed a back brace, which is what a lot of people with my condition went through. It was a brace that went around my whole torso. It was the full length of my body, and it basically was compressing on certain parts of my back to try and correct that curvature. It was the bane of my existence. I hated it. My entire life, from 5 years old through 11 years old, I had to wear this back brace while I was sleeping. I had to wear it throughout school, and the only time I couldn't wear it, or I was allowed not to, I should say, was when I was playing sports or doing some physical activity that required me to take it off. Other than that, I had to wear it. The idea was wear it until puberty, and then hopefully it would correct the issue, and I would get to live my normal life. That didn't work. So the option after when I was 11 years old that my doctor presented was 1, live with it, or 2, get surgery. The surgery was pretty extensive, and it had a severe recovery time. At the time, this was back in 2000, 2001, it was about a 1.5 year recovery time. Now, imagine that. You're an 11-year-old, and I couldn't have the surgery then. I had to wait until after I had gone through several growth spurts because it affects your growth. I'm 11 years old, and I'm being told, you're not going to be able to play sports, you're not going to be able to snowboard, you're not going to be able to play drums for a good significant portion of your 13-year-old, 14-year-old, possibly 15-year-old life. That's a significant time in your life when your social engagements are critical, as I'm sure you can all imagine. So we ended up going for the surgery. It was scheduled the summer before my freshman year of high school. And there was some depression there. And what ended up happening is because of the surgery, obviously I was not allowed to do anything that was physically harmful or potentially harmful to my back. I was unable to participate in physical education, gym. I wasn't able to do it for freshman year of high school. So in working with my doctor and my parents and the school, we found a solution where I was allowed to take metal shop. Normally, metal shop was reserved for juniors and seniors, kids who were mature enough, but because of this situation, they allowed me to participate in freshman year. So to dive back to my backstory a bit, my father owned an auto shop and he rode motorcycles. I grew up knowing for a fact, it was in my DNA, that I would end up riding motorcycles at some point. What I didn't know at the time was that I would get heavily involved in custom builds and restorations and the actual mechanics of motorcycling. So to tie that in with the metal shop, my freshman year metal shop final project, I ended up collaborating with a friend of mine who I met in metal shop. He was a little bit older, and we decided to build a motorcycle. We were young, we couldn't afford the parts, so I brought in a bicycle frame. He brought in a GoPed motor that he had off of a broken GoPed, and we ended up collaborating. The teacher allowed us to work together on the project, and we built what we dubbed the motor bicycle. It was slow, did about 7 miles an hour, we think, and it looked ugly. The welds weren't great, but it worked. We were able to ride it around the high school parking lot. And that was my first real involvement in motorcycle building or motorized vehicle building. And so I got addicted. And even though it was something that I never thought I would get involved in, it was something that I immediately grew a passion with. And since then, I've built 6 bikes, restorations / customs. I've got 20 some odd trophies from local motorcycle shows, and it's something that I still do nearly every Sunday with my father. So it's an opportunity that at the time I didn't know it was there. Now to tie this back into the original message, there's opportunities that are hiding. We don't even know they're there. And this is something that Rosh helped me identify through this course. That opportunity's been there since I was originally diagnosed, unrelated. But when I was 3 years old, I went up to the New York International Motorcycle Show with my father, like we do every year. And I pointed at a motorcycle. It was a Ducati. And I said, "That color BMW," or something along those lines. I was 3. And what I'm referring to is a custom build that my father was doing at the time, which we still have. It's a 1970s BMW motorcycle, Frankenstein bike, multiple years, multiple models, all built into one bike. But my point is, I went from 3 years old, identifying a portion of that custom build, all the way through 13, 14 years old, before I even realized that that was going to be a major passion of mine. And so my message, and I'm going to reiterate it, is that every one of you has something that you're passionate about, an opportunity that you have that's hiding on plain sight right in front of you. You might not realize it, but if you take the opportunity, or if you take the time, to really dive deep and think about that, you'll find something that you might be able to enjoy the rest of your life. Thank you.